You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast for the final part of our team's preview for the T20 Cricket World Cup. We've done Group A, we've done Group B, we've done the smaller teams in Group C and D. On this episode, we'll be talking through Group C and Group D. Now, confusingly for you, listener, we're going to do this in the wrong order because of availability issues. Max and Ross have already recorded Group C. I wasn't available for that. And Max and I are now going to do Group D first. Max, can you get your head round the alphabet going in the wrong order?
A, B, D, C. Yes, it's like a band. I'm sure there's a band called that.
It is. Are they still making music? Are they like just total dad rock now, Jeremy Clarkson stuff, or is there some cachet for AC/DC?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure they're back, but there's always room, isn't there, for some old people to come and have another go and make one last paycheck. So let's not rule it out.
Fair enough. So we will be doing Group D first. To talk about them for 20 minutes. Bangladesh, South Africa, Sri Lanka, and then we'll be talking, or Ross and Max will be talking about Group C, New Zealand, Afghanistan, and West Indies. Enjoy it as it comes at you. Before we get going, just a reminder to click like and subscribe. A reminder as well that if you are interested in any of the other teams in the T20 World Cup, go back and listen to the other two preview shows we did. We did Group A and B, the big teams, on the last episode, and then we did a 10-team, smaller team special on the episode before that, which I heartily enjoyed. Like, I think there's lots of good information in there and some hilarious moments as well. Probably the funniest we've ever been, I would say.
Yeah?
Low bar. Low bar. Also, we are sponsored by Manscaped. Get yourself ready for the summer if you're a man by shaving off all your hair. You can shave your hair on your face with the beard trimmer, the hedge trimmer. Should get the name right, shouldn't I? You can do your nose hair with the weed whacker. You can do your pubes with the lawnmower. And let's face it, that's what Manscaped's all about. The updated lawnmower 5.0. 5.0? 5.0. 5.0.
5.0, yeah.
American. 5.0, yeah. Ultra groin and body hair trimmer will give you a special summer makeover. It's waterproof, designed for splashy pool parties, beach hangouts, or just the shower, which is where I like to use it, you know?
Not at a beach or a pool party or...
Maybe I'm a bit conservative, Max. I don't know. Anyway, you can get 20% off using the code CricketPod at manscaped.com. Head to the show notes if you just want to click a button. But if you're able to type, put Manscaped in your search bar now. And then remember the code CricketPod for 20% off plus free shipping. It comes with a big thumbs up from us. Max, there are three teams that we're going to be talking about in part one: South Africa, Bangladesh, and the other one,
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka are actually quite good. That was the Sri Lanka did not deserve that shade, but they are the 20th team of 20 that we've talked about, so maybe they did. Max, who do you want to start with?
Should we start with South Africa?
Yes,
the last of the big boys.
The Proteas, they're in the way. Kit, this is what you need to know straight up. They're going to be playing in green trousers and a yellow top with the South Africa flag on the shoulders, which is good because it ticks all the main boxes. Like, it's got the colours that we traditionally associate them with when it comes to cricket. But if that was for some reason blowing your mind, they've literally put the flag on each shoulder. So spider cam from above, you'll know who they are. It's great thinking. They'll be like the little dots on Football Manager for people who played that game. The road to the World Cup, it was a bit easier for them on the way to this tournament. If you remember, cast your mind back about a year ago, they were in major danger of not qualifying for the ODI World Cup, pulled it out the bag. This time round, they just qualified because of cricket reasons. They're either well ranked or they did well in the last tournament, or a combination of both. Nobody really cares how it works, but South Africa are going to be there. They have, Max, been in action in the West Indies against West Indies. Unfortunately for the South Africans, they lost 3-0.
Hasn't gone very well, has it?
No, it hasn't. Now you could say that there are a couple of mitigating factors for the Proteas. No Heinrich Klaassen. I'm not sure Markram was even there. So they're a bit light on players, as it were, or starting players, and there are some definite. There are guys playing who didn't actually make the squad for the World Cup. So
unfortunately, that's also the case for the West Indies team. They just lost 3-0 to.
yeah. Look, maybe that's a good thing for the West Indies. Maybe that's an endorsement of West Indies cricket rather than anything that's a major problem for South Africa. Because Max, I actually think the team's not bad. I was trying to put an 11 together, and I think I made a mistake because I didn't pick Markram, and he's the captain. So I changed it, and I have Quinton de Kock, Reza Hendricks, Aidan Markram, Heinrich Klaassen, Tristan Stubbs, Killer Miller. They're not necessarily in the order they'll bat. They're just in the middle order. Marco Janssen, Kagiso Rabada. And then they've got kind of a few options here to Bryce Shamsi, Anrik Norkia, Maharaj, Kurtsayer, Bartman. All of those could play, and all of them are kind of fine options, I think. And it leaves the team, Max, that I think is pretty well balanced from a T20 point of view. You've got some more stability-oriented batters near the top of the order. You've got effectively unlimited scoring with Heinrich Klaassen and Tristan Stubbs in there. You've got Killer Miller for some experience and being left-handed. And then bowling, you have options coming out your ears. There's left arm, right arm, high pace, spin that goes the other way. It's a well-built team, I would say, Max. What are your thoughts on South Africa?
Yeah, I like it. They're good. They've got good players. And like you say, they've got a lot to like in terms of the setup. They've got power that some other teams don't necessarily have. They've got individual stars. You know, you look at Heinrich Klaassen and just it doesn't matter who he plays for in what country against whom. He is box office and always obscenely good. And then you've got some of the other players who've kind of had breakout years. You know, Gerald Coetzee been looking pretty good. He's struggled towards the end with Mumbai in the IPL, but he's really come on a lot. And Tristan Stubbs has had a great tournament in the IPL recently and really looking like a proper finisher. So they're a solid team, and I think they'll take some beating, but for quite a few teams.
Yeah, I think they'll take some beating as well. I think it's a team to be quite excited about. I think if you are South African, one of the other strengths that I think will go under the radar a little bit for a lot of people is that I think their spinners and the spin options they have could even be the best in the tournament. Now, I made a big call on Zampa. That he was the best spinner singular in the world. But I think that South Africa potentially with Bryce Shamsi and Maharaj could go double spin on if there are some slower lower decks in play and be really quite difficult to get away. And both of them probably carry a little bit of wicket threat as well. And then you've also got Aidan Markram, who does bowl, and he's more of a matchup bowler, but it's nice to have an extra spin option in your top order. So I think the trio there is at least a match for everyone else in the tournament. Now, we don't, and this is partly IPL related, because there's a lot of decent quality or better than average quality Indian spinners. It's there's a market dynamic that exists that means that they don't necessarily need to go and buy overseas players or overseas spinners. So overseas spinners don't get much of a game in the IPL, whereas seam bowlers, like literally anyone who can bowl 85 miles an hour is going to have a go in the IPL at some point. Like it's
it's fair. It's harsh, but it's fair.
If you're a seam bowler and you haven't had a go in the IPL, you're like a tier 3 bowler. Whereas that's not the case for spinners. You can go more or less your whole career and never get a proper run, I think, in IPL cricket. And I think that warps the perception of how good some players are, because we think IPL Premier competition, is the player an IPL player or IPL quality? And for spinners, often the answer is no. But that's actually related to how squads are constructed and finances and
Maharaj was in the Royal squad and played a few times this year. So,
well, he was, yeah. But like, even when spinners are picked up, they're not paid very much. There's not actually that much incentive for them to even bother. Like, to be perfectly honest. So, I mean, bother going, not like when they play. Obviously, they'll try. But so I think that I really like South Africa from that point of view. I'm a little bit worried about the seam department. I'm not sure Rabada had a great year. I'm not sure Anrek Nortje is the force that he was. And I still don't like Marco. Who were we talking about on an earlier podcast where I was like, I still can't decide whether they're good or not? Cameron Green.
Yeah.
I still can't really decide whether Marco Jansen is good or not. Like, I think the jury is very much out on that.
But if the ball doesn't swing, he's completely useless, essentially.
But say one of them doesn't fire. I think Kurt Sayer, and I think they probably will be the guys who get the first go. I think Kurt Sayer is a fine replacement. I think Bartman's a fine replacement. So I think they actually have options to go with the seamers. And I think because they'll get you 4 group matches, and then you get 3 in the next round as well. To get to the semi-final, you get 7 goes at getting your team right. If South Africa are able to win some matches, and I think they will, just because of the strength of their batting and because of the spin bowling options they've got, I think they will be very competitive. I think they'll be able to sort the seamers out. And so, Max, I'm going to stun kind of nobody and say that they are the hashtag dark horses for the T20 World Cup. What do you think about
that? When do we have to stop saying that South Africa are dark horses? Because it's like every bloody tournament. So they'll be like, India, England, Australia, big favourites, New Zealand, they always do well. South Africa, you know what? They've got a good side. They've always got a good side. And then something goes wrong somewhere. They lose to the Netherlands or something stupid. Like, what is it? What's going on in South Africa? Because like they are all high quality players. They've, like you say, got bases covered, backup options, and more often than not, something goes wrong. Someone goes off the rails. I don't know. Someone gets injured. It's a strange one. Maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the year they cast off the shackles. I don't know. It's strange, isn't it?
They do have an obscenely easy group, I think.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen people describe this as the group of death. And I think it kind of is if you're not South Africa.
If your name is Bangladesh or Sri Lanka, yeah.
Yeah, like all the teams in it are actually pretty good. But South Africa are kind of, 4th best team in the comp, maybe even better than that. We haven't seen them play, and there's a few pieces that might fall into place, and maybe we'll be saying they're one of the top 3. They should have no fear when it comes to Bangladesh and Sri Lanka and Nepal and Netherlands. Like, there's even they could potentially lose 2 of them and qualify, I think. And they won't. I think they'll win all 4. They're definitely going through if they win 3. So I like South Africa. Is there anything else that I need to do?
You need to compare them to some fast food.
Okay, so I went for Chinese food.
Right.
I think there's something for everyone. They're a good all-rounder. The complete package. You've got your carbs. You can get your egg fried rice. You can load up on the protein. Get some spare rib in. And you get some mixed vegetables if you want some, whatever the other food group is. Vegetables.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Who's prawn toasts? Who's prawn crackers? That's the good shit, right? Deep fried stuff. Is that Heinrich Klaassen?
No, I think Heinrich Klaassen is he's like the thing that you can't really afford to order and shouldn't be. He's pancakes. Yeah. He's crispy duck pancakes. But South Africa have actually got him. They've gone all out on their Chinese food order.
They've got the set menu.
Prawn toast is probably Stubbs. Everyone wants a bit of Stubbs at the moment, don't they? After his IPL. So yeah, that's my theory on that. Should we move on to Sri Lanka?
Let's do that. Let's move on to Sri Lanka before we get any more esoteric. So, Chris Silverwood in charge of Sri Lanka, attempting to make them a force once again in the world of cricket. With Indu Hasaranga taking up the captaincy. I don't know if he's actually a good captain or just like their best player. Seems one of those. I've never seen him really do the job much, but it doesn't really matter, does it? The kit from a distance looks like your bog standard blue cricket team kit with some yellow trim. Not very exciting. But actually, if you take a little closer look, it includes a very nice design on the front to commemorate Sri Lanka and what Sri Lanka's all about. There's a lion, an ocean, some flora and fauna. It's quite nice. It's quite a charming, nice kit, despite it being blue. So well done to them. Sri Lanka's squad. Now, it's quite interesting, actually. They've there's a lot of players in there that you will recognise from recent tournaments and recent T20 franchise leagues, and that kind of shows in their recent performances. All of their last 5 bilateral series have finished 2-1, Jack. Did you know that? 2-1. They lost the line. 3 of them were 2-1 to Sri Lanka against Bangladesh, Afghanistan, and Zimbabwe. They lost 2-1 to India and New Zealand. But, it's not a disgrace. Shows they can compete.
No,
I don't know what that India side was. I think it might have been the Indian D team, but the Indian D team's still pretty good.
It would have been a decent team.
Yeah. So they're not that bad, Jack, Sri Lanka, it would seem. And actually, they seem to be unearthing quite an exciting young group of players, at least with the ball. Hasaranga, we all know about. He's class, top tier. And it looks like, we weren't entirely sure, but it looks like Mahesh Patarana is also really good, because when CSK didn't have him anymore, they weren't very good. He's obviously a point of difference, very strange. We wondered whether he might be the kind of player that people would just get used to, but it does look like he's genuinely quite difficult to face. And he's apparently fit after leaving the IPL early, so that's all good news for Sri Lanka. You got Dilshan Madushankar, who was second or third in the wicket taker list in the ODI World Cup not so long ago. You've got Dusmantha Kumira, who's got IPL contracts and has raw pace. You got Mahesh Dikshana, who is a mystery spinner and is a proper threat. So quietly, Sri Lanka have put together actually this bowling lineup that's up there in the tournament. It's one of the better bowling attacks.
I tell you what,
tournament, which is incredible.
If it was a viable option to pick 10 bowlers,
they would be incredible. Right. Unfortunately, you've hit on the big issue, which is that it's not a viable strategy to Sri Lanka to pick 10 bowlers. They seem to have gone a little bit all in on pitches being quite difficult to bat on. The other spinner who's come in is Wellalaga, who managed to just see out Vijayakanth Vyaskanth, who got picked up by SRH as a replacement for Hasaranga. That news is probably, delighted, terrible, incompetent cricket commentators around the globe who will not even bother trying to learn names. But he's not there, so they're fine. No. But yeah, the point is the long way around to the point, Jack, is that it's quite hard to see where the runs come from for Sri Lanka. They've got Kusal Mendes.
They do have Kusal Mendes.
In the last 3 years, no one in the Sri Lanka lineup who's sort of a mainstay in the side has averaged more than 30. Kusal Mendes is on 29. And no one's struck at a strike rate of more than 140. Kusal Mendes top of the list on 137. Another K Mendes, Kamindu, who's come in quite recently and looks like he might be a decent player. He's scored some runs at a reasonable rate, but that's about it, really. There's no Rajapaksa. He's sort of the other guy who has been able to bash the ball around a bit for Sri Lanka. But you look at the rest of the options, and you've got Angelo Matthews is there. Nasanka scores some runs, but not very quickly. Asalanka can score some runs, but not very quickly. Samarak Wama is exactly the same. Dasun Shanaka is not the second coming of Hardik Pandya unless it's this year's Hardik Pandya. So basically, they've got a bunch of guys who are quite competent at batting, but they'll probably score about 25 off 20, and maybe excel one or two times down the line or against some of the weaker teams. But I think the problem is just volume and speed of runs for this side. So
Yeah.
that's the gap basically for Sri Lanka. Their bowling's actually very good, and it's going to be too good for the minnows, I think. And their batting will probably be enough to see them over the line against Bangladesh, because Bangladesh don't look very good at all. I'm sure you'll tell us all about that shortly. So I'm backing them to qualify, but I just don't think they're quite there in terms of being able to challenge properly. But I mean, what do you make of this Sri Lanka side?
I think that for them to have an impact in this tournament, Hasaranga is going to have to go off with the bat and the ball.
Yeah.
I think the bowling is pretty good. I think Hasaranga, especially when he's playing against people who haven't really seen much of him, he seems to be kryptonite. When he plays against the people who have, they might fare a bit better, but he's going to play against quite a lot of people quite early in this tournament who haven't got a clue, won't have a Scooby when it comes to Hasaranga. So I think he'll start well. But I think it's actually almost his batting that they'll need more. I mean, like the rest of the bowlers, I think it'll be interesting with the bowlers whether they could have Tushara and Patarana and Hasaranga all doing kind of really unusual, slightly off the wall things, and that could be quite difficult, I think, for teams to deal with. And I have some hope from that perspective. I think that's what I'm saying. I do think that their bowling will keep them in games. I don't know if Angelo Matthews at 37 years old is the answer. I'm not sure either of the Mendeses are going to be scoring bulk runs at a strike rate of 140. Asalanka, didn't Asalanka have an okay ODI World Cup, or have I confused him with somebody else? He doesn't seem to be scoring. He doesn't seem to score quick enough.
I think
so,
they've got some decent one-day batters, I think, is kind of
yes.
where
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they're all right. What fast food are they? I think they'll get through to the next round. I think
I agree. Yeah. They, Jack, are loaded fries. That's what they are. They're quite enticing at first. You get past the topping and dig a little deeper, and you realise actually it's not all that cracked up to be, because more often than not, they don't put enough on, and it's just chips. But at the start, when you look at it, very nice indeed.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Do you want to hear about Bangladesh?
Only because we have to.
Okay, well, let's start with their kit. It's simple and effective. I always like Bangladesh's kit. I'm always a fan, and it's always basically the same. I think it's like that color green. It's just a good color, and then the red flares stand out well. Road to the World Cup. Well, again, like they were kind of there, so that's they didn't have to worry too much about the road to the World Cup. They just got in. They have been playing some T20s recently, mainly against teams that they should be beating. And to be fair, they did beat Zimbabwe, who aren't going to be at the World Cup, 4-1. That's good. Alarmingly, if you're a Bangladesh fan, they lost 2-1 to the USA last week. And I think that probably tells you about where this team is in terms of World T20. Now, I'm not saying here below USA, but I'm saying this is a team actually capable of plumbing real depth when it comes to T20 performances. Like they're bad, Max. The kind of mystifying thing with Bangladesh is that, or maybe it's not mystifying. Maybe it's just like there's no talent conveyor. There's no talent pipeline. The resources aren't there. I'm not sure. They don't seem to be getting any better. I think that's what I'm driving at. Like the players that have come through, who are we talking about here? Shanto, Litton Das, Sumi Osaka. They're not really at the level that you need to be from a batting point of view to properly threaten a breakout for Bangladesh in this format, in my opinion. And they might have a bit more hope in ODI cricket, and they're turning into a reasonably competent team at home in Test cricket. So there is growth, but in T20 cricket especially, they're just not making the right type of player. Now you might say Litton Das had a good World Cup last time round, and he did. But if you look at the whole piece, since the beginning of 2023, there's only one Bangladeshi striking at over 140 who has faced more than 20 balls. His name is Mamadullah. Mamadullah is 38 years old.
Mamadullah, unbelievable.
He's 38. Their best player is probably still Shakib. He's 37, and I think that's what I'm getting at. Like, it's not so much a team preview as a structural annihilation of the Bangladeshi cricket system.
And you can compare it
to
a team like you can compare it to a team like Sri Lanka or like Afghanistan, where there's signs of something coming through. Maybe not with the bat, but at least with with the ball. There's a sign of trying to develop something. There's young up and coming players, and with Bangladesh, to be honest, I don't really see it anywhere at any stage of the cycle, let alone just the batting.
No, I don't. I think they've got some okay bowlers, haven't they? Fizz is still rocking out for them. Shakib can still do a job,
but we're still looking at the Fizz, and
Mehdi Hassan potentially, like, he for a while looked like he could break out as a lower order hitting all rounder. He had like a couple of really, really good games. I think one against India, and they might have been on ODIs to be fair, but he looked like he'd kicked on to the next level. And he only played one of the 3 matches against USA, so you can see where his stock is relative to the talent that Bangladesh has available, and they don't have that much talent available. Max, I think they've got zero chance
of getting through the group or the World Cup.
Of the World Cup. I think they're probably. I think of the potential, and I'm loath to call it shocks, and I think most Bangladeshi fans would probably agree with me here. I don't think it would be a shock if they lost to Nepal and/or Netherlands. I think they are better than them. I think they are better than them, but I don't think they are substantially better. I'm not sure they're better than Sri Lanka. I think that I would take some convincing on that front. Even though they might be a little bit more experienced, maybe they can use their experience to beat Sri Lanka.
Well, maybe they can use their mind games over Angelo Matthews. Yeah, because that's going to be great. I mean, that's the one good thing about Bangladesh Sri Lanka is we get the renewed rivalry.
And they've got South Africa. Or they got no, they haven't got South Africa up first. They've also got South Africa in the group, and they're definitely not better than them. I think it's a long way round this what I'm talking about here, but they're bad. Any thoughts from you?
I agree with you. They're bad. And is it just again back to the kind of pitches and kind of cricket that they play, like domestically or at home? It's not really conducive, is it, to T20 big hitters? And maybe maybe it's a concerted focus to consider ODI cricket and Test cricket as where Bangladesh want to focus, which it's entirely fine and up to them. But it's a compromise, isn't it? If you go down one route, then kind of closes other doors. So
I think it could be that. I certainly don't think they're helped by the pitches that they play on in domestic cricket. It might, and that probably leads to a style of game and a technique that's required to make it as a professional cricketer that doesn't thrive in situations where you have to hit the ball in the air and you have to play way out in front of your front pad. So that's where they're at. Maybe they'll never be good at T20 cricket. Who knows?
Matt, be the only cricket left by then.
As a fast food, I think these are like the deep fried Mars bar.
Yeah,
we mentioned them when we were talking about Sausage McMuffin and the Scottish team, which was extremely offensive. Deep fried Mars bar, nobody really wants it. I'm not even sure it's really a thing. It came up in a news story in 2005, and no one's iterated on it. you know, and that's a bit like Bangladesh in T20 cricket. They started playing it along with everyone else 25 years ago, and you know, never went anywhere with it, and nobody really wants to go and buy Bangladesh. Like, they don't want to go. It's a bit of a tortured metaphor.
Cuisine's moved on, man.
Cuisine has moved on, Bangladesh. That's exactly what I'm saying. That is exactly what I'm saying. Cuisine has moved on, and Bangladesh is still serving football burgers in 2007.
Yeah,
I want to have, when I go to the football, Max, I want, you know, something
AFC
that came out of a
street food
wok.
market.
I want a street
That's what you
food
want.
market. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want a football burger or a deep fried Mars bar, and that's what Bangladesh are trying to serve me. Max, who's going through from Group D?
It's South Africa and Sri Lanka for me.
Yeah, and you get the thumbs up on this front from me too. I think there will be a shock or two in this group. Like, I think
Yes,
it's
absolutely,
definitely possible.
Yeah.
Cool. Anyway, that's that. After the break, we'll be talking about, or Ross and Max will be talking about Group C. So enjoy that. I'm going away.